Hi, my name is Hannah Wagonmaker. I'm a 27-year-old mom of two, and I have rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune disease. I manage my autoimmune disease with the Autoimmune Protocol and a lifestyle and diet changes that are not all included on the Autoimmune Protocol. So this channel is for showing people like me how to manage their disease. So today I'm going to make some AIP crackers. I actually find them quite enjoyable. I would probably eat them if I wasn't AIP. I know a lot of people promise that, so hopefully this one delivers. Enjoy. So I'm here in my lovely kitchen and I have set up what I need to make the crackers. It's pretty simple ingredients. I have Anthony's Organic Arrowroot Flour, coconut flour, coffee, olive oil. I bought this from Walmart. I have Himalayan pink salt, baking soda, and I have cream of tartar. The basic recipe does not include the coconut flour, but the coconut flour was added because the texture of the arrowroot powder on its own is a little bit like just making a cracker out of baking soda or cornstarch. So adding the texture of the coconut flour makes it a really enjoyable, it almost has a grainy, weedy texture to it. You could use tiger nut flour instead of this too. Alright, so let's get started. So I forgot to mention that I used aluminum foil for this. So I just have a little aluminum foil, measuring cups. This is excellent for cutting the crackers. First thing I'm going to do is preheat my oven to 350. I've chosen 350 because we don't want the olive oil to oxidize. It undoes the benefit of the omega-6s we have, or the omega-3s. It oxidizes them to omega-6s. So that's what I'm going to do. It's 350. That also gives us the benefit of a lower temperature for drying them out without burning them. We really aren't even hardly cooking these. We're just drying them. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of arrowroot flour. Sometimes it's called arrowroot powder. It's basically the same thing. I don't know if you've ever seen arrowroot flour before. It looks like baking powder or cornstarch, and it has quite a texture to it, a lot like cornstarch. So I actually use arrowroot flour quite regularly when I'm just cooking to make a nice sauce. If you have any broth in what you're cooking, you can just throw arrowroot flour in there and it thickens it up into a sauce instead of just broth. So I've got 1 cup of arrowroot flour, and I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. Just for the sake of texture, again, you could use tiger nut flour for this. So we're here, out of the way. And then I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of, oops. I like to have all my dry ingredients together first. So do a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. An 1/8 teaspoon of cream of tartar. If you don't add cream of tartar, the baking soda is not going to do a whole lot, and you're going to end up with a much more compact texture, making them incredibly crunchy, which is okay for some people. I don't personally like it. Stir this in. Salt. This, you don't have to measure the salt. I'm just putting a pinch in. It's just crackers. There's not a whole lot in here that requires salt. You can also roll the salt right onto the top later to give it more of a saltine cracker look, where it's got the salt granules on the top. So now we add, I don't always measure this. I sometimes just do this from feel. Once you've made it 2 or 3 times, you'll be able to do it from the way it looks. 6 tablespoons of water it is. make sure I type the full recipe down below because I just realized I changed a couple of these numbers. It wound up being 5 tablespoons of oil. In fact, I might even add a little bit more, which makes it easier to remember the recipe if I do 6 tablespoons of oil and 6 tablespoons of water. Can you tell? I hardly ever I don't measure things, I just kind of guessed here what I had done. There we go. Alright, so this is the texture you're going for. It's culling up into blobs, and it's relatively easy to stir now. I'm just going to make sure that gets well integrated there. You can put flavorings in here. You could put ground garlic, or yeah, you could put garlic powder in here, onion powder, you could put rosemary, basil, thyme. I think I'm actually going to do basil. But you can choose whatever you like to add in here for flavor. There we go. And now I'm going to mash it into a ball, and then we'll flip it onto the aluminum foil, and I'll explain how to roll it out. So you're going to need a fairly large sheet of aluminum foil. I'd say that's about 18 inches long. Use my hands to form this into a ball, and then pat it together, flatten it, put it right in the middle there. And you can't just take a rolling pin and roll this straight out, because it will stick very badly. This is my retro rolling pin. When you're on AIP, you don't really bake. I gotta break it to you. So this is about the only thing I ever roll out. So I simply don't have a rolling pin. So I'm using 2 sheets of aluminum foil. You can use parchment paper for this if that's what you have on hand. And it will work just as well. This is to keep it from sticking to your rolling pin. I'm going to roll it out to under 1/8 of an inch to make a nice, easily chewable cracker. And it's going to be very easy for this to fall apart. It will, you can't pick it up off of here. So I actually cook it on the aluminum foil. So I think it actually cooks more evenly on aluminum foil than on a cookie sheet, because the aluminum foil is so thin that it can heat more evenly. But it might only work for this because I felt that the aluminum foil doesn't work as effectively for other things. Actually just smearing it and not even rolling it, it works just as well. Very thin. Making crackers. Alright. And since it's on foil, I can just pick this up and move it right into the oven. First, I'm going to cut it into shapes. And actually, I was thinking yesterday, you could take something on top of this and roll cool little designs in the top. Like even this olive oil bottle has this ridges on it. So I thought it would actually be really cool to take the bottle and roll that design into the top of the cracker. So if you have anything on hand like that, that make it a cool design, you can do that too. Now I'm just going to cut them into squares. I typically do about 1 inch wide. I don't use a very sharp cutter for this because it really just needs to squish it. It doesn't really need to cut it at all. This is a plastic pizza cutter, really not sharp. I don't mind all these organic shapes. If you want, you could take off the edges and form all squares, if that's your preference. But yeah, it crumbles right up as soon as you pick it up, so don't try too hard to pick it up. And the oven is preheated, so in the oven it goes, and I'll check back with you in about 20 minutes. I'm going to put it in the oven and cook it for 10 to 12 minutes, and then I'm going to turn the oven off for an additional 8 minutes or so, for roughly a total of 20 minutes, because mostly we are just drying these out. They're going to cook, and then they just need to even out, so we don't open the oven. We leave it closed after having it on for 10 to 12 minutes at 350. So I have waited the time. I've let the oven sit on off with it still in there. Now I did quick check just for your benefit to see what exactly they look like in between doing the oven on and then having the oven off, and they were quite blonde. They were not done. So I want to show you now what they look like after sitting 8 minutes uncooked or on off. Now when I go to put these in the oven, I actually purposely take my fingers underneath and kind of bend it because I like them to have curves in them. As you can see, there's a lot of oil in there, so they kind of just come right off. Look at that. And it's even like that because the oven was off. It's not adding more heat. There's just a tiny little ring around the edge of them being slightly more cooked. They're pretty hot here, but because I scored them, they'll actually just break right on those lines. Into nice little crackers. And these are basil. One of my favorite ways to eat these is to just cut an avocado in half. I mean, you can scoop it out, make guacamole out of it. One way I sometimes do it is you actually just mush up an avocado. Now it's a lot easier to get it off the edges there. It comes right out. Enjoy!